So continuing on, I've got the pipe coming out of the valve, and I've put it on a shutoff here. This tee is going to go over to the cold water coming out of the filters, which will be fed by the pumps and or city water before it goes over to the hot tank. And at this point, it's got the valve in the hot tank, so we can shut it off there. But then this, like I said before, is going to go to the washer dryer. I actually think I'm going to feed the kitchen from the other side with cold water. And then the hot water, when it comes down that way, will meet up and parallel or go alongside the cold water pipe over to the kitchen. So next thing I'm going to do here is connect this hot water supply similarly and start getting it piped under and up over to the hot water tank here. And then we're going to stub that out going that way as well. So but I'm probably going to do that a different day. I'm out of PEX tees and elbows. Need to hit Lowe's and get some more supplies. So I'm back at the bus here. Got an hour or so. I'm going to keep working on plumbing the hot and cold pipes from the water tank or the water heater over toward the source. I'll have to move all this debris out of the way. I got it kind of stockpiled there. So a lot of congestion in here with just materials and whatnot. It's about due for another round of organization for sure. But I'm going to get started. So I've started here at the hot water heater, putting some elbows in against the wall. They're going to go over and then cut across here for the washer dryer combo hoses to attach to. Then similarly, I'll be doing a blue cold line going a little lower over. And then we'll take this hot line this way. Most likely try to get it to go pretty close to where that one is and then drop down. So anyhow, I'm going to keep going at it. You know, if I film all this, it's just going to be repetition of you know, cutting the PEX with this plastic cutter, using my crimp tool, and you know, crimp rings, and you know, I'm sure there's a million videos out there on crimping PEX, so I'll try to kind of cut to the chase on showing the finished product. Alright, so I've got the cold water line sort of run over. I'll need to tack it up in place with some pipe clamps or pipe nailers, whatever you want to call them, but I've got it going over here where I can add a ball valve for the machine and whatever end I need for sort of the hose bib, so to speak. But anyhow, I'm gonna do the clamps to put this in place, and then I'll get the hot water line run right above it. Alright, so I've got the laundry stuff up to the ball valve. I'll have to put some kind of an end for the right kind of fitting for the laundry hoses. I think it's garden hose size, but anyway, so I've got those in place. I'm going to zip strip the hot line to the cold, clamp to the wall there. That'll keep them both in order, and we'll be good to go. So I'm going to continue going this way. If I have enough crimp connectors. I may be out of crimp connectors, and I was just at the hardware store. So hopefully I have more. If not, I've got to put an Amazon order in. So I actually am going to make a little bit of a tab here to mount the washer dryer hose hookups. So what I'm doing right now is just chopping this piece of sheet metal, and then I'll be drilling a couple of holes to house the ball valves or the shutoff valves with the proper garden hose thread. So anyhow, I'm going to get this cut, and then I'll bend it on the brake and drill some holes for those. So I just cut this piece of metal, bent it over. At this point I'm going to drill holes, and I'll sand it a little bit and spritz it with some white spray paint. I should have some laying around. This is going to have either on this side or this side. I got to look at how it's set up. Probably over here. It's going to have the two holes drilled for the ball valves for the washing machine hot and cold hookup. Those will go to the half PEX with additional valves behind them. I don't really like the petcock style valves very much, but my brother happened to have some, so I'm going to go ahead and use them. So I just used this, I believe it's 20mm hole saw, and I cut the sheet metal, and this will just kind of thread in place. Then it has this lock collar that'll go on from this side. After that, I'll mount this to the PEX pipes, and then we'll screw it in place, you know, just with some regular sheet metal screws through these existing holes. But I'm going to go ahead and sand this out a little bit and paint it white with some spray paint. And after that, I'll be ready to, well, after I let it dry, I'll be ready to affix these and get that part done. While it's drying, I'm going to move over to the plumbing, going over toward the pumps and the filter setup. So anyhow, I'm going to keep at it. Alright, so just put a quick coat of white spray paint here on this. Tell me, why is it that bugs seem to be instantly attracted to spray paint? This one just flew right in immediately after I sprayed the back here. So anyhow, I'm not sure why that is, but they do seem to like it. So anyway, we'll let that dry. What I'm doing now while waiting for that spray paint to dry for the laundry fixture is I'm actually working on this hot water line. I've cut a piece here. It'll go in there with the elbow. It's going to drop down and then bend in here, and probably with a couple elbows come over this way to feed hot water here, or I'm sorry, here. Feed hot water here on the valve, and then it's going to tee there and keep going around. And that hot water is going to meet up at the floor and come over toward the sink. So that'll be the extent of the hot water system. Actually, I'll tee off to go toward the back lavatory as well. That'll be probably 1/2 inch line if I had to speculate. But anyhow, I am currently just trying to get around this corner with the hot water pipe. And here we are. I've got the hot water going down. I'm going to zip strip these together to make them stiffer. They're both going down the side channel. There's going to be a bit of a cabinet in here just below the edge of this to kind of hide things. So that'll make it more aesthetically pleasing. But this hot line's going over, goes down, elbows over. Again, I'll zip strip things together, and it's coming right over here where I can tee into that. So that's the next step. So I've also measured this piece, put some elbows on it. It's going to connect the tub outlet from the valve over to this tub spigot. I just got to trim the tub spigot a little bit, and then we'll have it put in place, and I'll crimp it in and we'll be good there. So I'm making progress here. I've got the got both of the lines coming off the tub here ready to go over at this point. I actually put this one in a different direction so it'd be easier to turn this valve. This wouldn't get in the way, and then this one's the other way. So want to go up, want to go down when they're on. So anyhow, going to push this way along with the pipe coming off here. I've got a mix of metal and plastic because of supply chain issues. I usually buy the plastic because they're cheaper, but they didn't have them. So Lowe's was nice enough to give me a discount on that because they couldn't find the inventory they said they had. So anyhow, I am going to keep moving over this way. First, I've got to clean the jumble of crud out of my way. Still waiting for the paint to dry on that flange I built, but on the holder. But I've got this block of wood in here to secure these. I actually, instead of zip stripping, I actually just use these better snap-in hold downs that my brother had. So I'm ready here. I've got it ready to put that that flange in with the washing machine petcocks here. So I've got the ball valves and these in case I ever need to change these out. I'll just turn the ball valves off. So anyway, I am going to go around here while I'm waiting for the paint to dry still and continue with getting this over toward the filter setup and pump in that cavity there. So right here I have branched off. We're going to put some valves in right about here. One of them, probably we'll go up here a little bit further, but one of them is to open the flow of the tanks to the pumps. The other one's going to be to feed water into the tanks from city pressure. So we'll go ahead and cut some pieces and get that part put in place. So as part of my waterproofing efforts for this pump and filter cavity, I've put that board in place. I just cut this one. I'm going to screw this one in almost a 45 there to the bottom. I'll caulk the edges and spray it with some more of that rubber paint. So the intention here is that I think the filters are probably going to go on this side. We'll have to figure it out, or maybe over here. I just got to lay out where I'm putting the pumping mechanisms. I'd like to keep this cavity empty for storage, so we'll figure it out. Alright, so I made these hose attachments. They're going to go against the wall like this, clamp into the PEX pipe, and I'll just screw this flange in once I've clamped the PEX pipe on. So that'll have the hoses coming out this way, and that'll work nicely. So there's the laundry hookups finished. Got double valves here, but that's okay. So this will allow us to reach in through the gap here, which I'll probably shield with a magnetic piece of metal, like with some or thumb screwed in. I don't know. Well, there's going to be a cover there, but it's to access the dryer hose and supply lines, etc. Electrical connection for the dryer. So anyway, we've got these valves here, and these are garden hose thread, and then that goes to 1/2-inch PEX. So anyhow, I'm pleased with that, how that turned out. And then we'll go, next time I'm out here, I'm going to finish the pump and the water filter setup, etc. But right now I'm going to spray some of this rubber flex after caulking the edges, a seam there and a seam there. I'll spray the rubber flex to let it dry before I install the pumps and whatnot here. So anyway, that's about it for tonight. Alright, so I've got this backsplash here. I've got it all coated in rubber paint and down into this drip tray. Again, there will be a hole over here going down to drain the tray. Probably going to push a piece of PVC down in and then coat it in this rubber paint, so there's a small opening for drain. And then next to it there'll be a drain for garden hose slash with valves slash draining the tanks. There's going to be a line coming from the tank over to that, and then the valves will decide whether it's draining the tank or using city pressure here down into the garden hose bib on the outside in front of the tire. So anyhow, we're going to let this dry, and next time I come out I'll be able to get the pumps mounted in here, so I can then plumb the cold water supply from the tank into the pumps, as well as from the city into the pumps. I'll have it so the jet pump can boost the city pressure. So anyhow, that is where we're going to leave off right now. I'm back at the bus. Got about an hour or so to kill here. I'm going to work on plumbing. I bought that cabinet on clearance at Lowe's. It has a chip on the back that I don't really care about. It's actually going to go over here on that ledge. I was going to originally build my own shelves, but that's a lot easier. It already has a cabinet door and everything. This is going to be where we store our bathroom supplies, you know, things like toilet paper and towels and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going to get that set up in place out of my way, and after that I'm going to proceed with some plumbing in this area. Alright, so there's the cabinet. Of course, I'll trim this out with something more decorative here in between. This should hold, you know, our larger detergent, some bath products, toilet paper, stuff like that. Extra, whatever, washcloths, some towels, you know, things like that. So anyhow, sure, kind of beat trying to build my own cabinet for only $50. It wasn't even worth the labor to try to do it. So I'm just going to screw it into the cabinet behind with 4 screws, and then we'll trim this out. I may actually block it so this actually comes forward to the edge, to be determined, but right now I'm just setting it here for fitment. And we'll put a knob on this door, just a screw-in knob, and it'll have some kind of a little hook for a rubber band to keep it closed while we're driving. Just keep it simple. Over here, there's going to be you know, some kind of a covering to hide wires and things coming over this way, hide the pipes. You know, once I get the propane line and whatnot, there'll be some kind of an offset shield with something decorative there, but easy enough to remove to access things. That's the plan anyhow. So this leaves just enough room for plugs to access here. The hot water tank will likely plug in here along with the washer dryer. So anyhow, now it's time to go ahead and start plumbing over behind me. So I've drilled some holes, 7/8 for the 3/4 PEX, and then I've drilled a hole to here for the hot line. We've got the 2 lines for cold going toward the pump and filter. This hot line is going up a little bit higher because it's going up to the lavatory for the back of the bus. There's going to be a little sink back there. So anyhow, we've got the holes drilled. I've got this piece of pipe here kind of bent in a little bit of an S shape so that it's going to meet the stub there, go down through the hole, and then meet up with the pipe that's pressurized on this side here that I'm pointing at with the PEX pipe here. This is pressurized going back to the tank. That valve will normally be closed except when we're trying to fill the tanks from city pressure. So anyhow, I'm going to get this fit in place and then crimped. Alright, so I've got this hot water line running right into the hole here. I'll pull it up into the T and clamp it off. It's going to elbow right away here and go through that hole toward the back of the bus where I'll have a lavatory. I'm just going to leave it stubbed right there for the time being at the edge of the platform. And I'll probably leave a few extra inches just in case, but this blue line's going to tee into the line that goes this way. It'll be pressurized from the filter. So I'm going to keep going. So I have that stubbed out. I'm actually going to put a T in right there, one going this way, one going over here. There'll be a line going along these, or hot line going over here to the lavatory and the kitchen sink. So first I'll hit a electric water heater, but then the kitchen sink. So we won't always be using the propane. We'll basically turn it on when we want to use the bath, or possibly the washer dryer. Well, it would have to be the washer dryer. So anyway, I'm going to tee into that. First I'll do the blue pipe so I have access first, but I'm going to, after that tee in, go that way with a stub and then drop down with an elbow, maybe another elbow or two to go along the floor and head over this way for the hot water to the kitchen area. So here's the pressurized side. It's coming from the filter, pressuring the tank, pressuring the hot water flow, cold water over here, cold water to the tub. So anyhow, there will actually need to be, now that I think about it, another T here prior to this elbow. Probably right in there I'm going to add a T and an elbow that goes up for the actual cold flow into the kitchen and lavatory. So yeah, a little out of breath. It's kind of hot and muggy in here right now. So anyway, this is stubbed in to that space right there. And now I'm going to work on the gravity flow here from the tanks. So I've got the cold water supply pretty much run here. I've got a little stub here to feed pressure to up in here. It'll go around that bend and over this way up into the lavatory and kitchen for cold water. So what I'm going to do now is move over to this this hot water leg, get a piece pushed through there all the way under. I'll just get a tape measure and get a rough idea how, well, I'll probably just pull it through actually, and then cut it off right over here. So anyway, I'm going to get to that and then we'll put an elbow in. That'll be stubbed out, and it'll actually have a T, and part of it will go down and follow this line over. So that's the plan. Alright, so there's that hot water pipe stubbing out under the platform. And it's over here. I'll be cutting it off and putting the elbow in, or the T in. So here we go. We got the hot water going to the back of the bus. We got the hot water ducking down here, going parallel. And then over here, it's gonna elbow up a little bit and run over, and then we'll put it over this way and bring it up into the side. It'll come up along the side of the edge there, along with the drain line will come down through there too. But we'll get a hot and a cold line coming up through the corner. One will feed over to the lavatory, which is going here, and then the other one's going to the other sets are going to the kitchen sink. Right here, I'll get a reducer T, or T, and use a 3/4 to half reducer to bring those over this way as half, because the lavatory faucet doesn't need 3/4 pipe. So anyway, that's the plan. Making good progress though. Back at the bus here, I think what I'm going to do tonight for the next hour is stub out, or take these 2 stubs that go over toward the kitchen and this lavatory. I'm going to dry fit the lavatory here just to get my measurements, and then I'll drill through to feed the 2 pipes up through the floor along this wall. They'll go this way and that way behind the sink, and then over here and under for the kitchen sink, and the electric water heater that's going under the kitchen sink for point of use. It's actually like a 7-gallon electric. So we'll have both propane and electric heat for hot water here, for the kitchen sink anyway. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and get some pieces cut based on the layout. I'm going to move this crap out of my way and get that unboxed, the lavatory sink there unboxed and positioned, so I can mark where to drill the holes, both vertically and through the floor. So that is the plan for right now. So right there's the lavatory base. I've set it in its position so that on the other side I can put some dots where I'm going to drill the holes for hot and cold water coming up. So this has a little cabinet on the inside, knobs in my pocket. I'm just going to screw it into the wood when I finally install it, and then these legs should actually just be covered by that flooring piece. Fortunately, I thought I might have to build a little platform out, but the elbow-shaped or the angled flooring piece, I'm pointing it right there. One of those actually will just come up to the front of that, so that worked out pretty well. Alright, so I started here with cutting the side out a little bit with the hole saw on this, and the part that won't be visible. And then I've got some holes right off to this side a little bit for the water, hot and cold. And we'll put a drain hole in as well. Probably 2 inches. That's for the PVC. So, although I actually have to think about it, I might want to drain this with something different than rigid PVC. I may want to actually drain it with some flexible tube or something, just to make it easier to route it underneath. So, have to consider that. Maybe a barb fitting coming off of PVC would make more sense. There's going to be a master P-trap on the drain under the bus. I may put a P-trap on the kitchen sink as well, but I'm thinking that I don't need to trap every sink individually on this setup. So we shall see. And I've drilled the holes there next to my little paint mark. I needed them side by side like that. When I tee up, I'm going to actually make one a little taller than the other, but the part of the tee is going to go just along the floor there, and I'll put some hose clamps on to hold it to the floor, and then it will angle a little bit and then bridge up through these 2 holes. So that is the plan anyway. Hopefully I can make that come together. It's going to split off and reduce to half right here. And then 3/4 going over toward the sink. So that's going to come over and then go that way. So anyhow, that is the plan. I'll keep at it. So here's where I'm at with this hot and cold water pipe. I've got them both fed in. I've got the red one, the hot one, all connected up to the hot line here. And I've got to put the cold line in, but this is its stub. We'll get that crimped with an elbow going over this way. And then fed into this piece up into here. I've just ran out of elbows here, so yet another trip to the hardware store, likely tomorrow. So, anyhow, making progress, slow but sure. Back at the bus here, I'm going to continue with the fittings. I'm going to take them over this way, up under the kitchen sink. I'll probably put the water tank in place. I'm going to move my batteries out of the way. I may clean up and throw them under the hatch where they're going to go, to be determined. And then, I'm not sure if I can rough this lavatory in completely or not, because I do need to paint this wall before I do that. But I'll play that by ear. Anyhow, I'm going to keep at it. So I actually decided to shift a little bit. I basically built the inlet assembly for the two pumps. So you got a strainer, got a very short section and a half. I had no way around that, but I made it as short as possible. It'll create some constriction and flow possibly, but it's so short it shouldn't make much of a difference. Then we've got the valve going up to the C-flow pump right here. And I believe that one's self-priming. And then we've got a valve going here up to the jet pump. This will be for high pressure water if we need to boost city pressure, or if we want to fill the tub from the tanks, or just want higher pressure for some reason. We use this one, probably not that often. And then this is actually, if we loosen this valve, and then we can even loosen all three valves, and this one here is going to be the valve that drains the tanks to the outside spigot. It'll also drain the inlet for the pump, actually probably the whole pump, you know, along with, I'm going to have a pressurized nozzle on this assembly as well. Probably at a far point, like potentially up under the sink, or possibly I might join one in here to the cold side of the system so I can blow air out through the cold and hot. I have to think about exactly where I'm going to put that, but I have an air compressor chuck and a ball valve for that will allow me to pressurize the system, both for testing when I'm done with this and to blow water out, so I don't have to use RV winterizing antifreeze. I should be able to use the air pressure or the compressor to blow enough water out that it won't freeze and burst pipes. So anyway, kind of a convoluted pipe setup, but this will work out. This is going to come up at a 45. I'm going to mount the pump up in here along that backboard on the slope. That'll be where we mount that pump and the accumulator tank. I don't believe the orientation of that's going to make any difference. So anyhow, once I've got this sorted out, got these mounted, then I'm going to continue on with these pipes here. So continuing on here, a little time this evening, I've got these stubbed over. I'm going to drill some holes for the supply under the kitchen sink. I'll get those lines run, but I'm going to have to clear out my space here. That battery bank, I think I'm going to go ahead and get it put under the floor, get all threads put in, and kind of get it ready to mount the BMS. I'll need to get the leads all set up for that eventually, but I need to be able to work under there, so we're going to move it out of the way by putting it where it's going to go under the floor here. It'll go sort of right in this space is my plan. So anyhow, I think I'm almost ready to do that actually. That might be the wise next step here, so that's what we'll do. At the bus here for a couple hours this evening. It's Halloween night. I am going to put the water heater in below the sink here. It's going to kind of tuck in right in here. Thinking closer to the wall most likely. So that is the Bosch electric water heater. So I'll get that unboxed, figure out how to mount it. It might go up against the wall. To be determined. I also need to figure out the drain pipe and make sure it has a little bit of a slope coming up into here. Probably elbow it out a little bit to catch the sink. So anyway, we'll see what this water heater looks like, how big it is, etc. So this is that Bosch 3000T. It's a mini tank electric. I believe it's, pretty sure it's 110. This was what was recommended by, or used by Brian and Aaron on BE Adventure Partners. I just used their link to buy it on Amazon a few months ago. Anyhow, it looks like it'll be a good under the sink unit. I think it's like 7 gallons of storage for hot water. So it'll make sure that the hot water is efficiently delivered to the main faucet. And we quickly get hot water without wasting water. So I'm actually going to feed it with the hot water pipe coming from the propane heater. And regardless of whether that's on or off, it'll still work. So anyhow, let's get this unboxed and I'll figure out how to mount it. I believe it has a mounting bracket. And we'll get it, I think, mounted to the side of the, depends on where the inlet outlet are, but I think we'll mount it to the sidewall under the counter. So I'm going to be mounting this supplemental water heater sort of horizontally this way. This brass plug's going to go into this hole because the T&P valve's going to go into this one. But it's going to go into that hole so that I can use it mounted this way with the hot and cold to the side, the electrical to the side, and I'm just going to secure it to that wall. I may also put a strap across the bottom of it to further secure it, to be determined, or maybe some wire, something to hold it more tight to the wall. We'll see. But anyway, I'm going to get the T&P valve installed on the top, plug off this, and then I'll start working on the electrical connection. It'll be nice and close to the box. I can probably wire it directly to a breaker. We'll be good to go with that. So I think maybe I should put this on a drip pan. Well, I've got to think about that, but for now I'm just going to kind of get things positioned. I added the brass plug to this one. I put the pressure valve in the top mounted position. I've got it on a 3/4 here, but I'm going to reduce that to half when it connects to the vent line. I'm going to basically use some vent line and clamps to go from the 1/2-inch PEX into that, and that way if it blows off pressure, it'll just drain into the tanks or blow out the side of the bus in the vent line. So that's my plan for the pressure valve on that one. So I unscrewed the electrical cover. I'm going to use a conduit clamp on this. This is all 110 wiring. You got the ground, you got your hot lead and your neutral. So anyway, I'm going to strip these wires back, wrap them around this piece of Romex, get this put in through the conduit clamp first, of course, and we'll get it all wired up, wire nutted, electrical taped. I'll tuck it in place and we'll be ready to take that back to the breaker once it's mounted. Alright, so I've got the cover on, got the 12 gauge Romex in place. That'll handle up to 20 amps. Judging by the wires inside, I don't know if this draws that much. I think this is like maybe 1500 watts. I'd have to look at the specs, but this will certainly handle it. So anyway, I'll be ready now to get the bracket out. I'm going to have to pick up some female national pipe thread to PEX fittings here to get these, if I can get this cap off, to get these water lines put on. But I'm going to get it positioned and you know, kind of stub it in so that these can be used. But I believe these will be NTP, 3/4 NTP from the looks of it, but I'll look at the specs in the manual. And we'll take that to 3/4 PEX. This input of the cold water is actually going to be coming from the other hot water tank. It'll be a red line. That way I can either choose to use the other water tank to help pre-stage the hot water here or not. And it'll still flow through. Whether it's in actuality cold water coming from there or hot. So anyway, that's the plan. There'll be a shutoff before this. I'll most likely put that shutoff right behind the tank over here where the line will hook in. I have to think about that. Well, maybe on this side, because actually it's going to be pretty close to the wall there. So we'll see how it fits, but I'll get this pipe dry fit before leaving. So at this point I can set this in place and run this wire up to the breaker. So I'm going to go ahead and hang the unit. So I fed the Romex up. I've got it connected to this 20 amp breaker here. I'll have to label the hot lead, and eventually I'll document the whole layout here, and when I put the faceplate on, everything will be nicely labeled. So anyhow, I am going to, at this point, get these water lines roughed in, and I'll run the cold all the way over toward the sink. I'll run the hot to the tank first, and then we'll run a hot line out of the tank. But I need to get some fittings, so we're just going to kind of rough them in for now, get them close in 3/4, and then at that point I'll be able to kind of get the plumbing finished. I do need to figure out the outdoor spigot over here. I've actually thought about, instead of trying to jack the bus up, I've thought about cutting a square out on the outside wall, and then getting this hose bib mounted to a piece of steel, and then get that riveted in place. That would make it easier for me to service it without having to jack the bus up. I need to drill a hole up, but to do that I've got to make sure I'm in between the ribs. And also, if you recall from really early on, I had to put 2-inch square tubing in and rebuild some of the floor section right by the front of the wheel there. So I do know that there's some heavy metal in there that I need to dodge. I believe if I'm close to this side over here, closer to the door here, that I'll dodge that. But it would be much easier to get a hole in the side of the bus where I want the bib to come out and be able to look in there with or without my camera and kind of position the drill bit accordingly to come up in the right position. At that point I can finish the drain lines to drain the tank, and for the pressurized side to go to an outdoor spigot so that we can pressurize inside the bus and have an outdoor spigot to to do things like fill the radiator or wash the outside of the bus, etc. So that'll be what this is for. And so right now what I'm going to do is get the plumbing done over here. So what I just did here is cut a little bit of pipe out. I'm going to put the shutoff that goes to the electric hot water tank here with the other shutoff valves. The reason for that is the clearances behind the hot water heater are a little slim. It would be hard to get to, and this will actually be a better place with all these other valves. We'll get accustomed to popping a couple of hatches when we want to adjust valves. This one right here, and then the one covering that stairwell there. So anyhow, I'm going to get this clamped into place. Alright, so there that valve is clamped in place. That'll make it much easier to plumb to the tank up here. So right there I've got the distance, and I've got a little bit of pipe cut with a couple clamps, so I'm going to clamp that in place. That's feeding through at about the same height as the inlet for the water tank. I'll just have to trim it to the right length, and then add an elbow and add the 3/4 NTP fitting that I do not have yet, but I will. Just got to make my 50th trip to Lowe's for plumbing parts. And there we go with that one. It's punching through. The clamp's actually kind of holding it in place. I'm actually going to put the drain pipe hole right here, coming from the kitchen sink. So it'll come in here, it'll elbow down, and go sort of under here through those pieces of wood beside the battery bank over there, and then it'll cut over. So that's the plan for the drain pipe. I'll have to do that in a couple of sections and join them. This cold water line is going to get elbowed and come up this way, actually, through here, since it's going directly over to the faucet. I kind of want it to be out of the way of the drain pipe. So that is the agenda with that one. So right now I'm straightening out some pipe. I've got some clamps put against the wall here to hold the cold water supply going over toward the sink. It's on the same level as the hole I've drilled through the wall there. So I'm going to take a quick measurement, cut the pipe, and get it fastened into the elbow on the other side of the wall there. And I got the cold water supply running through. Now I just have to snap this into the wall, and it'll be ready for the fittings at the sink. And there's the cold water supply for the sink. So at this point I'm ready to figure out what kind of fittings I need for the sink tap. I've got to go grab that out of the trailer, and got to make sure I have those fittings, and then I'm going to figure out over here next time I'm out what to do with that spigot and get the drain pan and water line through a hole there. So anyway, that'll be the next step. As you can see, this plumbing process is extremely involved, very detail oriented. Back at the bus, I'm going to get this water heater connected. I got the right 3/4 female to 3/4 PEX fittings. I'll get those threaded on with Teflon tape on each of these. I actually had to remove some of what I did before. It was kind of difficult because it was close quarters, but I didn't have enough pipe going through the wall here. I underestimated the length, so I have to redo that a little bit. So anyway, my plan here is to get this cleaned up. I'm going to put that carpeting underneath this to keep it from sliding, just to kind of create a little cushion as well. It's going to be, I'm going to make a metal strap here against the wall. I'll be putting a coat of paint on this wall before I do that, but there's going to be a metal strap to hold this in place. And I'll have some thumb screws on each side. So anyway, what I'm doing now is putting the 3/4 female National Pipe thread, those fittings on, and then I'll get this kind of put in place. And at that point, I'll be able to, I don't know, I'm rambling, but anyway, I'm going to put the fittings on. Alright, so I've got that reconnected. Got this water heater positioned. I actually just decided I'm just going to paint close to it when I do paint. Then I've got the T&P valve here plumbed so that I can run it. I'm going to run it 3/4 over to that side, and then I'll go through the wall. I'll switch to 1/2 inch, and it's going to actually join up with the vent line right there, the 1/2 inch vent on a T, and that'll be 1/2 inch PEX going into that T with a band clamp, and then that will allow any pressure overflow to hit the tanks, or if the tanks are full, it'll go out the side of the bus there through the vent. So anyhow, that is the plan for the T&P valve. I'll probably do the same thing on the other pressure valve. On the other water tank there, I'll run tubing up to it in the same fashion. That way if the T&P valves blow, they won't be all over the floor. So I got the outlet going. I'm going to put another clamp against the wall, and I'm going to snap it in there. I'll add a ball valve as well on the end. So I do think I'm going to shorten this hose just to touch the hot water supply. Or make it a little longer than the blue one. I'm not positive. I got to get under there and look. So anyway, that's where I'm at with this electric water heater. It was very challenging to get that pipe connected. Probably should have used this in the top orientation, but all's well that ends well, I guess. So, alright, so right here I've drilled through another line. This is for the T&P valve. I've got an elbow that reduces to 1/2. That's going to join up to a T in this line here. And so I've plumbed this right through the wall so that if this overpressures, like I said before, it'll end up in the tank or blow out through the wall through the vent hole. So that way we don't have a big mess. Anyhow, that is the plan. What I'm going to do right now is join this line up with this one over here. Just going to go around the back side of that plank and then come over. Okie doke. So I've got that cold water line totally crimped over into that elbow. So it's starting to look like a bit of a rat's nest under here. It's only going to get a little bit worse. You know, when I'm done, I'm going to label everything so that somebody who isn't me can still understand it, or at least make heads or tails of what the system does. So anyhow, I'm going to call it quits for the evening, head back home. I just had a little bit of time here tonight, so anyhow, until next time. Alright, so this faucet's the one that we got in Elkhart at a surplus store. It's an all-metal faucet. I'm going to put it into the sink here, and then I'll get it connected up. This looks like half NTP threading, so should be good there. Hopefully I have all the parts, to be determined, but I think I do. So we've got the slide here for the wand. I believe that connects to this, hot and cold. And then we've got a weight, and I believe this collar is for the tightening mechanism right here. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and get this put in. Hopefully I don't have to drill a hole. Looks like the right size hole already. So we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I've got this this collar screwed up finger tight. Now I'm going to use the drill to screw these into the bottom plate. It's got a little rubber on it. Top plate has an O-ring, so hopefully it'll seal good. I may also put a tiny bead of clear caulk around it eventually. After that, I'm going to connect the hose here to this. Actually, I could probably do it right now. I'm going to figure that out. I believe it just snaps in place, but we'll sort through that. Hope I didn't lose a part. And then we'll put the weight on this. After I do that, then I can get the cold and hot connected with a 1/2 inch NTP, and we'll get it put on the pipes here. We'll get them connected to these pipes with some PEX. So anyhow, that is the agenda. Get the faucet connected. Alright, so I put some reducing elbows on the ends, and I've got some swivel connected 1/2 inch NTP to 1/2 inch PEX. Now I just need to put the straight pipes in between these points and clamp them on, and the faucet is installed. And there we go. I got the faucet installed, and here we go. I got the pull wand. Ought to give us pretty good reach for bathing dogs or whatever we're going to do up here. Filling up pots, whatever we need to do. It's probably not the most high quality faucet, but it'll work. If we get tired of it, it's easy enough to change. It took me about 20 minutes to do. So anyhow, on to the next step. So at this point, I have all of the plumbing done in the front part here up until the pumps and filters. So the line's going over toward the pumps. I'm not going to be able to do that till I have daylight, because to finish that I need to locate the outside spigot, which means I need to make sure I know where I'm drilling that hole down through the floor so I don't hit a girder. That would be hard to drill through. I want to just drill through the floor material, the sheet metal part. But that requires a little bit of work there. I'm going to cut a box out on the side, and I need daylight for that, is what I'm trying to say. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start on the drain systems from the sink. I'm going to work from the sink over toward the whirlpool, and then I'll have another line that'll come from the lavatory sink area out there. I'm just going to stub it until I build back there. But that line will come through. Probably will consider flexible line there, I'm not sure, or skinnier drain line. It is just going to be a lavatory. So, but to get it over here, it might be easier if it's to be determined. I might still stick with standard inch or 2-inch drain, but what I'm doing right now is I'm going to put this this sink drain in, and to do that I need to widen the hole. This is a antique sink. It's not standard sized, so I'm going to widen this hole a little bit with the hole saw, and that way this will fit. And then I'll put some plumber's putty in, along with this this having a gasket on it, and we'll get that roughed in. That is just slightly off center, but it won't be very noticeable because the flange is pretty wide. Should cover up the original hole pretty well, so at least that's my hope here. So anyway, I'm going to get this fit. Alright, so I've taken some plumber's putty and I've coated the bottom of this. Rather than using the rubber washer, I don't want this to come up too much. I want it to kind of sit more flush, so I'm using the putty to squeeze it together. I'll put the washer on underneath to help seal with this ring. So hopefully we'll be in good shape at that point. So we'll see what happens here. It shouldn't leak when I'm done, I don't think. Alright, first time around I used too much putty. I've used a little less than half as much here. So hopefully that works better. We'll see. Alright, so there I've got the drain assembly put in. Got to clean up some of the excess putty. Got the tailstock screwed on. This is flexible. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to use it. That's why I got a flexible one. It'll make it easier to improvise. I'm probably going to put a trap here, and then there'll be another trap below in the bay. I know that a lot of people think with RVs that traps aren't going to work, but if I make them deep enough, especially the one in the bay, I don't think the water will shake out very easily. So we'll have a trap at the major appliances, well, at least at the sink. I'm not so sure about the lavatories. I may have small traps there, but there's definitely going to be a large trap in the holding bay with a clean out, and then that way, if we get junk stuck in there, along with other clean outs along the way, I'll be able to deal with the maintenance. So anyhow, I don't really like the HEPA valves. They look like they're a little bit finicky and don't work all that great over time. So I'm going to stick with traditional traps and see how it goes. Back at the bus here on a Friday evening, got an hour or two to kill. I've actually measured from the edge of that door over toward the toward where the pressure valve is there, pressure regulator, and I've got about 16 inches as the estimated distance where I want to put the outside spigot. So what I'm going to do is go outside with a light, because I haven't been able to get out here at daytime. I'll get some lighting out there, and I'll take a drill with a 3-inch hole saw. I'm going to cut a couple hole saw holes, and then I will join them with the jigsaw to make sort of an oval shape on the outside at that distance. That'll give me enough room to get my hand in there with a drill and drill up at that distance of 16 inches. Drill up enough that I can make sure I'm missing the ribs from the outside without having to jack the bus up. So in between, I'm going to take a picture with the flash on, make sure I'm not hitting anything that I don't want to hit. You get a good view before I do the drilling. So anyhow, that's my plan. And then when I put the spigot on, I'm going to have a removable steel panel that'll be riveted in place. I'll pre-prime it, and that'll hold the spigot in place. That'll make it easier to service in the future if I need to change the pipe or replace the spigot. Just drill out the rivets, and there we go. So I may not even use rivets. I might just use sheet metal screws, stainless ones. I got to think about that plan. But if I use enough of them, that probably is the better way to go. So anyhow, that is the general idea. I know I ramble. So filmmaker I am not, but just wanted to describe what I'm going to do here. Okay, so right there I've got a center line mark for the holes, 16 inches. I've got to decide, how big I need to make the opening. I think it's just going to be 2 drill bits, or 2 hole saw widths wide, which would make it about 7 inches. Hole saw's 3.5 actually, diameter. So I think I'll come down a little bit, maybe 4 inches below that hat channel, or not hat channel, the rub rail, 4 inches below, and then I'll drill 2 holes next to each other. And then after that, I'll get the jigsaw and join the edges of the holes. So what I'm going to do right now is actually put the video camera under there to have a quick look with the light on to see, make sure that I'm not going to hit anything when I drill through this. So I don't expect there's anything important behind that panel, but I just want to make sure. So hopefully I can see this when I pull it back out. Alright, so what that showed me is that I want to actually drill a little bit to the left of that mark. So I'm going to line up the edge of the hole saw with that mark and not the center, because the tire shield, the mud guard, runs down too close for me to use that as a center line. That is one serious hole saw. It'll about take your wrists off if you're not careful with the big drill. But I got the first hole cut here, so I'll do the next one. Alright, so got the second hole drilled. That thing will just about rip your arm off if you're not careful. So, using a big hole saw, be super careful. That's my advice. And also take it slow if you get the variable speed. I wouldn't use one of these on a single speed drill. So I've got the oval cut out there with the jigsaw. Trusty old cheap Black & Decker. And that'll let me easily deal with the lines. I think what I'm going to do, actually, to keep the hose bib from getting snapped off if we brush something, I'm going to recess it. I'm going to use the box and pan brake to kind of fold the recessed box, and then I will get that riveted to a piece of sheet metal, the rectangle to go on the outside, and then we'll put the whole thing together like that. I'll run PEX through a center hole in that box, and then I'll be able to connect the faucet and get it screwed into place. And I think I'll try to have it sort of centered so there's room for the hose. I'll have to play with the dimensions, but the idea there would be it would keep the hose bib from getting broken off. So I think I'll make a little box with the box and pan brake, or with our brake anyway. I don't know if that's actually a box and pan brake, but I'll make a box with the brake and either tack weld it or rivet it to a piece of sheet metal for the outside here, and then we'll get that primed. But for right now, I'm just going to have a hose hanging. That'll be a little side project. I'm going to get the PEX hose hanging. I need to do this all so I can put the pumps in place. There's always contingencies with this project. You got to do this before you can do that. So locating this line for draining the tanks and you know, other things that need drained, and also having city pressure to a garden hose while we're parked. That whole setup requires that I do this, then the pumps. So that's why I'm doing it right now. Alright, so I have decided where I'm going to drill is between those two marks, probably a ½ inch in from the lip of the tray. That'll let me run the lines down, angle them in, and hopefully it won't be too hard to drill. I'm going to use the 1.5 inch hole saw. That'll let me put a 3/4 PEX line down, but also leave a little room to drain this tray after I spray it with some more super rubber flex stuff, and maybe a little foam so that there's just a pinhole. I may even put a little piece of tubing in for the drain portion, but I want to be able to have this tray draining to the outside without letting a lot of room in for cold to creep in, etc. So anyhow, there'll be a bit of a pinhole to drain it. Alright, so got that damn hole drilled. Smashed my finger against the wood. That drill is super powerful. The hole saw bit catches at times and it just spins the whole drill. If you're not ready for it, you're going to get hurt. So got my pinky right there smashed. It'll probably turn black and blue. But anyway, I've got the hole drilled down through the metal right there. So the next thing I'm going to do is shop vac this. Then just about done for tonight. I'm going to spray the rubber flex down that hole and kind of line it with waterproof material. Hopefully that helps seal it up so that it just drains straight out. We'll also put some more foam in once I get the pipe going through, and then I'll poke something down through the foam for drainage. So or I might put a little tube in before I foam, to be determined. So anyway, I'm going to get this vacuumed up, spray the rubber flex, and that's it for tonight. Alright, so I sprayed a lot of that goop down the hole, and looks to have coated all the sides pretty well. So hopefully that'll help waterproof going through when the pan drains, but also the tubing and the foam that I'll spray in there to hold the tubing in place, those will also help. But anyhow, I also took the opportunity to spray a second layer here on the overall pan, so should be good and waterproof, hopefully. That's what I'm going for. Got to let this dry before I can proceed. The next step will be to plumb from here and connect into that part that also drains the pump assembly. Get that, and it'll connect to the tanks as well. Get that all plumbed to a 3/4 line going down here. That'll go to the spigot. So anyway, that'll be what I do next time. So I got the rubberized paint dried there with the hole drilled. I've got a few hours here this evening to work on this, so I'm going to run the hose out, connect an elbow up here, get this connected over, and then we'll tee it so that coming off the pump, which isn't there yet, of course, it's behind me at the moment, we'll have the drain from that, and then we'll also join this valve to that same outflow to go to the outside spigot. So that'll allow us to make it function like a garden hose on the outside of the bus under pressure, and also to let it drain the tanks. So I may actually also run it in such a way that the pressurized side feeds into it as well. So got to play with that a little bit. Okay, so I've got that piece of PEX line bent, so it's arcing through the hole there. Over here I've got it teed, and from there I'll be able to connect up the lines. Once the lines are all connected, then I'll be able to put the pumps in place. Alright, so at this point I've got the line going down under. It's teeing off over here to a high pressure side coming out of the pumps. This side's going to allow for the pumps to drain, and then there's a valve on the pump assembly, if you recall. Then this side's pressurized from when we're connected to city pressure. We turn that valve, we'll be able to use the outside spigot. So anyway, I'm going to keep going with these connections. I'm getting fairly close to being able to set up the pumps. So here's my progress. I've got the, of course I showed you before, the line going down. This is from the pressurized side from city water, so that we can power the spigot from city water pressure. Through there, down, and then the spigot outside. Here, this is to, this elbow here is to drain the pumps of water when we winterize. And then over here, this line will go to pressurized from the pumps through the filters. It'll come up, it's cut off right there, but it'll come up into the outlet of the filter system with a valve. So some of these, I'm out of breath from leaning down in tight quarters and trying to clamp this last clamp. That one was a real pain to get to. I had to kind of bend the pump around and whatnot. So now I'm going to secure the pump in place with some screws, and then I'll probably put a little bit of caulk under those screws or whatnot to keep them from causing leaks in the drip pan if there is water. And then I'll be able to put this pump in pressure, forget what you call that. Basically, it's a little pressure tank regulator, accumulator, that's what they call that. I'll be able to put that up on the backboard here. Then I believe I'm mounting the filter assembly here. If I need to access the hot tub, I'll come in under the floor through that space to get to it. If I need to change out a pump or something like that. It won't be fun, but it'll be possible. So anyway, the next step here is to get this pump screwed in place, and then I'll start plumbing the inlet from the tanks. So at this point, I've got the larger pump screwed down with caulk under the screws. I've got the RV water pump and accumulator here screwed to this backer board. I wanted this in this orientation so I could easily adjust the pressure in the tank with that. I believe that's a cap to charge it with a Schrader valve, I'm guessing. Yeah, just like a bicycle pump. So there's that. I'll wire this stuff later. I got to run a GFCI outlet down to this area. I'll probably put 2 circuits in, one for the heater, and might even be 3 circuits. Heater, the Whirlpool pump, this larger pump, and then I need a 12-volt line going over to this. Probably with, I'm going to guess 14 gauge wire. I have to check the gauge on what they've wired it with. So anyway, at this point, the outlet from the jet pump and the outlet from the accumulator are going to join. There's going to be check valves. I believe I'm going to put another pressure regulator in as well. So the space in the middle here may get full. And then we'll bring that up into the filter, which I'm going to mount in this space here. And then from there, the outflow comes out of that far side of the filter. And it'll go down and catch this pipe and tee into the pipe going to the outside water. I've made some significant progress here. I need to find the, well, this is a check valve coming from one pump toward the outlet flow this way from this pump. This is coming from that pump there. Went from half back up to 3/4. I'll be putting another check valve in here before I hit a T. Then this goes to this valve. Similarly, well, that's not the right word, but this is the city pressure side coming in, and it will also get filtered through the filter before it goes anywhere. And there's the outlet side of the filter. I actually had to flip this around by undoing these 8 screws on top. So that the inlet was on that side and the outlet was on this side, just to make it simpler to do the plumbing. So this will drop down and meet that connection in that line there. So I'm trying to finish up the water plumbing, the supply side, with the pumps. And so I've got this other check valve I just bought from Lowe's. I had 2. I don't know what I did with the other one, so I'll have an extra check valve laying around. But I just want to get this project finished, so I went ahead and just bought another one. So anyway, I'm going to screw this 3/4 NTP to 3/4 PEX fitting onto each side with some Teflon tape. Then we'll get this installed along with the second pressure gauge, pressure regulator coming off the pumps. So anyhow, I'm going to get at it. Alright, so right there is the check valve with the PEX ends on it, Teflon tape. And then I've got this pack of elbows to finish out the job. Again, had to buy metal. Plastic was out of stock. So, thank you, COVID supply chain issues. But anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and finish up this this pump system and the pressurized side connection. And then we'll be in good shape, I think. So, here we go. The rat's nest of plumbing. So, I can try to explain what we've got going on here. We'll start with the city pressure side. If we're plugged in from outside with a hose, or connected with the hose, I should say, it'll have an inline filter there. It'll come in, go through this pressure valve that controls city pressure. In case it's too high, it'll limit it. We'll adjust that. Then city pressure continues on this way and goes around over here into the filter assembly. There's a valve here, and I'll put a valve in on this side to be able to change the filters without losing too much fluid. So that'll be high pressure cold water entering the system. Alternatively, if the city pressure is low, we can actually do a pump assist. What I will do is I'm going to throw another valve in over here, probably right here actually, here in a moment. I'll cut that and throw a valve in that'll turn. And that will allow the city pressure to be stopped here and redirected down this way by opening this valve. And then we'll open this valve down here. Open that. And then the city pressure is going to flow up into the pump. into the pump or pumps to be have its pressure increased, is what I'm trying to say. But normally these will be closed. This one will normally be closed. This one may be open when we're connected to city pressure. It flows to the outside faucet. And then this line here will also feed the outside faucet going through the floor, the spigot. But for right now, I'm going to close that valve. So that's the city pressure side. What I have going on over here is the pumps. This is the shallow well jet pump, and then we have a traditional RV pump. I have two choices there, depending on how much water flow I'm trying to create. So the cold or the tank water comes in this line and bends around and then goes in here, and you can see back here this white line comes up into the RV pump, and then it actually feeds over here and up into this inlet side of the shallow well pump. High pressure side check valve. This flows only this way. Here's a check valve from the other pump after the accumulator tank that flows only this way. Both of these meet and go into this pressure regulator so that I can regulate pump pressure. And then this goes again into the filters. So all I have to do at this point is connect the outlet side of the filters to the pressure side of the water system, and also run cold off of that along with that hot line that's stubbed out for the lavatory in the back. And then I'll be done with the water supply side, except for adding in the airline fitting in a valve to be able to pressure test and winterize. The air blowing through it will allow us to blow all the water out of the system. So there we go. I just got the last of the water piping done, connecting this valve up with the outdoor line, and then the pressure side going over here to this one. Then it runs to the back for the lavatory in the back as well. So anyhow, this phase of the project is pretty much concluded. I do need to do a little bit of odds and ends, like adding the airline assembly and just little nitpicky stuff like that. I'm going to, on the tank over here, I'm still going to use some plastic fill and re-tap that one hole that was a little bit cross-threaded. So that's sort of nitpicky stuff, and you know, I'll have to terminate the lines over in the back for the lavatory once I decide exactly where that's going. So anyhow, for now I'm just going to put some ball valves on in the back, some shutoffs. So anyway, this phase is concluded. It was very complicated, but I'm gratified it's over.